Okay. Yeah. Interesting. I mean, I guess the most obvious change is what we're on now, right? Like that, if not that long ago, sitting on a video call with a client to have a sales call would have been probably a bit weird. Like, unless you were working internationally or, there was some material reason why you had to jump on a video call. I used to work for an agency that had a client in Germany. So actually having video calls with them was quite common, but that was client calls. We knew them already. They were in Germany, we were in the UK. So yeah, jumping on a Zoom or whatever was relatively common. But for a sales meeting, it was very much default face to face, right? So if it was a meeting, a call, or different scenarios where you might talk to a client, but it was either over the phone or it was in person was kind of the default, right? So this is completely different experience, and all the things that salespeople do, building rapport, getting sort of body language, all those sort of like the secret sauce sometimes of what good sales meetings are, just getting a vibe from someone of how it's going, the different people in the room, people trying to interject into conversations and all those sorts of things. It completely changed, right? It's very, very different on a video call. I mean, I'm trying to talk to camera because someone told me once that's a good thing to do on video calls, but because I'm looking at the camera, I'm not looking at all of your lovely faces. So I don't get those kind of like vibes and stuff from people. So that has massively changed, right? And it's fair to reflect on that because it has changed how we might handle meetings and the extra effort we have to put into building rapport and trying to all those sorts of things. So that's the most obvious thing to reflect on. I don't have any like massive advice necessarily on how to make them better, but it is obviously a huge change which has happened quite recently. I think the other things that have changed is the number of meetings that require to go from like initial contact through to close to sale. Regardless of what you're selling, I think. I mean, I work in a relatively consultative sales process with quite big ticket items, sometimes often hundreds of thousands of pounds sort of per project. So people don't buy that on after one phone call or one meeting, right? Like you have to go through quite a lot of hoops, different workshops and different types of meetings that are part of that sales process to eventually get to a close. Each one of those meetings has a slightly different sort of a role in the sales process, but each one needs to be planned, thought about, like what are we trying to get out of it? What does the client want to get out of it? What's the agenda? What questions are we going to be asked? What prep do we need to do? And so all of those meetings need to be arranged and obviously hopefully with a good outcome that you're building towards that ultimate sale. So that's, the complexity of the different sales process. We have to think about all these different types of meetings. The other thing that's really changed, I think I can only put it down to like post-COVID, slightly difficult kind of financial situations, high interest rates, all these sorts of things that are affecting the market. It is hard out there at the moment. I think everyone's saying a similar thing, and everything's taking longer. So like the what might have previously been signed off after a couple of meetings, you get to a point, you've got a proposal, it's been verbally agreed, they run it past their boss, great, signed off, let's go. Now you've got so many more eyes on things, things are getting more and more up the food chain. Boards are, far more involved in the detail. Budgets are being scrutinized. So it's just making everything take longer, and that's what everyone's saying that I'm speaking to in the market that's worked in sort of similar consultative sales. Everything's just taking longer, more people involved, more eyes, more conversation, and as a result, more conversations, more meetings. You're having to go back and sort of represent things or reposition things, or you get feedback and you got to. So yeah, so those are the biggest changes recently, are those sorts of things. So of online video calls, tricky, more different types of conversations you need to have and more people involved in the conversations. It's yeah, so all those things are complex, right? Because yeah, trying to persuade senior decision makers to spend significant amounts of money on a video call, it's not necessarily as easy as it might have been once upon a time. So yeah, anyway, reflections rather than advice, I guess. But yeah, there's some of the things that have changed.